What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews, exclusively here as always on the Casa Studios channel. I, of course, am your host, the Renegade JJ Williams, and today we begin the Kelvin Timeline with 2009's Star Trek Reboot, starring Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto, Carl Urban, Zoe Saldana, Simon Pegg, John Cho, Anton Yelkin, Eric Bana, Chris Hemsworth, Jennifer Morrison, Tyler Perry, and Leonard Nimoy. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining me here once again for another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews. And as I said in the introduction, we are finished with the primary timeline that began with 1979's Star Trek The Motion Picture, carried us all the way up through 2002's Star Trek Nemesis with the Star Trek The Next Generation cast. Today we begin an alternative timeline known as the Kelvin Timeline with 2009's Star Trek Reboot. I'm really looking forward to getting into this one and seeing what you guys thought about the reboot. Let's get right to it here, shall we? Captain's log, stardate 202129.5. It's the year 2233, and the Federation starship, the USS Kelvin, is investigating a lightning storm in space when a Romulan ship, the Narada, emerges from the storm and attacks the Kelvin. The Narada's first officer, Ale, demands that the Kelvin's captain, Richard Robot, come aboard in order to negotiate a truce. Once aboard, Robot is questioned about the current stardate and an ambassador named Spock, whom Captain Robot doesn't know or recognize. The Narada's commanding officer, Nero, kills him and resumes attacking the Kelvin. George Kirk, the Kelvin's first officer and acting captain, orders the ship personnel, including his pregnant wife Winona, to abandon ship, while he pilots the Kelvin on a collision course with the Narada. George Kirk sacrifices his life in order to ensure Winona's survival as she gives birth to James Tiberius Kirk. We then flash forward 17 years later, and on the planet Vulcan, a young Spock is accepted to join the Vulcan Science Academy. After the realization that the Academy views his human mother as a disadvantage, he decides to join Starfleet instead. On Earth, Kirk becomes a reckless but intelligent young adult, and following a bar fight with Starfleet cadets, Kirk meets Captain Christopher Pike, who encourages him to enlist in Starfleet Academy, where Kirk meets and befriends Dr. Leonard Bones McCoy. We then jump ahead another 3 years, and Commander Spock accuses Kirk of cheating during the Kobayashi Maru. Kirk argues that cheating was acceptable because the simulation was designed to be unbeatable. The disciplinary hearing is interrupted by a distress signal from the planet Vulcan, and with the primary fleet out of range, the cadets are mobilized, with McCoy and Kirk boarding Pike's ship, the Enterprise. Kirk realizes that the lightning storm being observed near Vulcan is similar to the one that occurred when he was born. So Kirk breaks protocol in order to convince Pike that the distress signal is a trap. When the Enterprise arrives, they find the fleet destroyed and the Narada drilling into the Vulcan's core. The Narada attacks the Enterprise, and Pike surrenders, delegating command of the ship to Spock, and promotes Kirk to the first officer's position. Kirk, Hikaru Sulu, and Chief Engineer Olsen perform a space jump onto the drilling platform. And while Olsen is killed mid-jump, Kirk and Sulu successfully reach and disable the drill, but are unable to stop Nero from launching red matter into the Vulcan's core, which forms an artificial black hole that destroys the planet Vulcan. The Enterprise then manages to rescue Spock's father, Sarek, and the High Council before the planet's destruction, but not his mother, Amanda, who falls to her death before the transporter can properly lock on her. As the Narada moves towards Earth, Nero tortures Pike in order to gain access to Earth's defense codes. And while in pursuit, Spock maroons Kirk on Delta Vega after he attempts a mutiny. On the planet, Kirk encounters an older Spock from the original timeline, who explains that he and Nero are from the year 2387. In the future, Romulus was threatened by a supernova, which Spock attempted to stop with an artificial black hole made of red matter. However, his plan failed, resulting in Nero's family perishing along with Romulus. While both the Narada and Spock's vessel were caught in the black hole and sent back in time, Spock discovered that they were sent back 25 years apart, though, during which time Nero attacked the Kelvin, thus changing history and creating a parallel universe. After Spock's arrival, Nero stranded him on Delta Vega in order to watch planet Vulcan's destruction as revenge. Kirk and the elder Spock arrive at a Starfleet outpost on Delta Vega, where they meet Montgomery Scotty, who helps them by creating a transwarp beam system which allows them to beam onto the Enterprise while it's traveling at warp speed. Following advice from the elder Spock, Kirk provokes Spock into attacking him, which forces Spock to recognize himself as emotionally compromised, and he relinquishes command to Kirk. The Enterprise hides itself within the gas clouds of Titan, while Kirk and Spock beam aboard the Narada. Kirk fights with Nero and Aiel, killing the latter and rescuing Pike in the process, while Spock uses the elder Spock's ship to destroy the drill. Spock leads the Narada away from Earth and sets his ship to collide with Nero's ship. The Enterprise beams Kirk, Pike, and Spock aboard, and the Narada collides with the older Spock's ship, igniting the red matter. Kirk offers Nero to help him escape, but Nero refuses, which prompts Kirk to give the order to fire, dooming the Narada to be consumed in a black hole that the Enterprise is only barely able to escape. Once everybody returns back to Starfleet, Kirk is promoted to captain and given command of the Enterprise, while Pike is promoted to rear admiral. Spock encounters his older self, who persuades his younger self to continue serving in Starfleet, encouraging him to embrace his human half and do what feels right instead of what is logical. Spock remains in Starfleet, becoming first officer under Kirk's command, and the Enterprise goes into warp as the Elder Spock begins to speak the classic monologue. Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. It's very cool to hear Leonard Nimoy give that monologue as the new crew begins their mission. I thoroughly enjoyed this film. And in some ways, it's a reboot. In some ways, it's a prequel. Because for those of us that never watched the TV show, we don't really know how Kirk and Spock met, how Kirk met Bones, where Scotty came from, where Uhura came from, etc. This film gives us that. So I almost would watch this film, and I'm going to assume, because I haven't seen them yet, the next two films, and then go into Star Trek the Motion Picture. Because although this is in fact an alternate timeline, in the fact that there's original Leonard Nimoy Spock and Zachary Quinto Spock, and there's two Spocks, there's also the time travel factor. So this could very well be the start of the story we all know. And much like in Bill and Ted, where Bill and Ted from the future come to tell modern day Bill and Ted, hey, listen to this guy. He knows what he's talking about. It's a very similar type of dichotomy with old Spock showing up to keep young Spock on his present course. At least that's the way I see it. Maybe my opinion will change as I view Into Darkness and Beyond over the next 2 days. But I really feel that this film could be used as a prequel to the existing timeline that we already just covered. I really enjoyed the opening prologue and the story of George Kirk and the birth of James Kirk. A lot of people talk about the beginning of Up by Pixar as some of the saddest opening, 5 to 10 minutes in film history. I don't know about y'all. Maybe it's just me and where I know some of these other characters from. But the fact that George Kirk, Chris Hemsworth, Thor, sacrificed himself so that his wife, Winona, Jennifer Morrison, Emma Swan in Once Upon a Time, could give birth to James Tiberius Kirk, Chris Pine, Steve Trevor from Wonder Woman. Just watching the whole sacrifice and how quickly Kirk was put into command, George Kirk. He had to act on instinct. He was captain for 12 minutes before he sacrificed himself and died so that his wife and son could live. And watching him talking to her over the speaker, hearing that she has successfully given birth to Kirk, as she's on the escape pod getting away from the destruction, their conversation about what to name him. I'm going to tell you right here, in this guy's opinion, that opening prologue was sadder, or at least on the same level with what some of y'all think about Up. Because I didn't find Up to be as sad as everybody made it out to be. But this I found sad. That's just me. When it comes to my rating of this film, like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed this one. Maybe even a little bit more than I enjoyed the ones from the original timeline. I think I'm going to give this one 4.5 out of 5 stars. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I know these actors and actresses from so much other stuff as opposed to just being Star Trek actors. Like I said, you've got Chris Pine, who's Steve Trevor in Wonder Woman. You've got Zach Quinto, who's Sylar from Heroes. Carl Urban, who was in Doom with The Rock, which granted, we don't talk about Doom. Zoe Saldana, Gamora from Guardians of the Galaxy. Plus, she was in Avatar, which granted, I've never seen Avatar. I know, shocking to a lot of everybody out there. So forgive me, I don't know the character that she played. John Cho from American Pie, from Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. There's so many actors and actresses here that I know from other things that I think maybe that's part of why I like this telling of Star Trek more than I enjoyed the original timeline. Let's make sure we get out there, everybody. Go on the social media, get those hashtags trending. Hashtag Casa D18 Studios, hashtag Renegades Reviews, hashtag Renegade Returns, and of course, the ever popular hashtag Shenanigans. We interrupt this episode of Renegades Reviews for an important announcement about
merchandising.
Merchandising? What's that?
Merchandising. Come, I'll show you. Merchandising, where the real money's made.
Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network for all the t-shirts you see here from the West Coast professor, Jeff Meacham himself. You can get shirts for the Jeff Meacham Network, Talk Wrestling, as well as the red and gold Meachamania shirts. And while you're there, don't forget to get your shirts of the Casa D18 Studios Brotherhood, the Dads on Wrestling shirt, the Renegade JJ Williams, Statboy Sports Bar, and the hashtag StatBoyApproved shirt. Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network and score your shirts today. Make sure you guys get out there. Do what that commercial just told you. Go to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network for all your official merchandise of the Casa D18 Studios Brotherhood. Get you your Renegade JJ Williams shirt, Dad's Not Always on Wrestling, Statboy Sports Bar, hashtag StatBoyApproved, hashtag Shenanigans. Get you your official merchandise of the Jeff Meacham Network, 3 different designs of the Jeff Meacham Network logo shirt for you to choose from, along with Talk Wrestling, Meachamania, and so much more. Tomorrow, right back here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, I'll be bringing you yet another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews, and I'll be covering the second film in the Kelvin Timeline, Star Trek Into Darkness. I'm very curious to see where the story goes from here. I'm looking forward to viewing it and reviewing it for you, my loyal viewers. For all my loyal viewers that tuned in during the premiere, leaving your comments over here for me. Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it. To all my loyal viewers watching on demand, leaving your thoughts down here. Once again, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it. I appreciate each and every one of my loyal viewers who tune in each and every day right here to the Casa D18 Studios channel for a new episode of Renegades Reviews. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys next time. And now that Spock's back in this, live long and prosper.